So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Wandering Artist. I know many of you are regular here, but I see some new faces, at least in my show, in the Artist Soul. So I'll introduce Wandering Artist to you. Wandering Artist is the most happening place in Chennai. This is a performing space, this is a learning space, this is a sharing space, and this is a creation space. This is where artists come. This is where art happens, this is where art seekers come, and this is where you can learn, unlearn and relearn whatever you're good at or whatever you're interested in. So if you have some good, interesting ideas, you're a performer, you're a filmmaker, you're a photographer, you're a visual artist, whoever you are, you can join hands with the team here at Wandering Artist to express yourself. It's a wonderful space. Vani and I, we thoroughly love being here every last Saturday with the Artist Soul program. And the people behind the Wandering Artists are the most compassionate people, the most generous people, the most creative people you will meet. One of them is here, which is Kaveri Puvanna, who is an artist herself and is one of the co-founders of the Wandering Artists. And we also have Sriram Iyer of Nalanda Way, a good friend, and again a very creative person who is a co-founder for this space. So our role for Vani and me is really to curate this wonderful, wonderful series called the Artist Soul. This is where on the second Saturday of every month, we invite an artist, and today we have Keshav, the legendary Keshav with us. Thank you. And Keshav and I will be in conversation pretty soon. But the idea for the Artist Soul really came about from a desire to understand the life journeys of artists. What inspires their art? How do they express themselves? What makes them come alive? And every month we invite an artist who is very well known through their work, but whose stories are not so well known. And that gives me personally great joy in curating this series. We started in January with Viku Vinayakram, then we had PC Ramakrishna, we had the Dhananjayan couple who are making waves on Vodafone right now, and so we got them here first before they went to Vodafone, so we can take the claim. And last month we had our very dear Sri Kumar Verma, and we have Keshav. Next month, in June, we have Rehane, the fashion designer. In July, we have Nartaki Natraj, the dancer. And in October, August and September, we're still fine-tuning. In October, we have Arundhati Subramaniam, the author. So we have an interesting lineup, and the idea is really to explore stories that have not been told. Now, why do Vani and I curate this series? And what's so exciting for us to be in this space? Even Kaveri was asking me that question a little while ago in the cafe. Now, Vani and I are going through a very cathartic experience. We're going through a bankruptcy for a decade. Something that is inscrutable about our lives is that we've not even been able to fix a financial situation with our business and with our personal lives. But there has been a reason perhaps why this happened, and the reason is it directed us in the direction of our higher purpose. Yes, to fix our problems is part of our responsibility, but the higher purpose, as we discovered, is to inspire people to be happy, because we learned that art ourselves through this very difficult phase. So wherever we get an opportunity to inspire people to be happy, to pause and reflect on what matters most in life and why does it matter, we decided that we will curate programs in public spaces where whoever is willing to pause and reflect can join us. We'll have an invited guest and we will talk about their life journeys and see what we can learn. So that's why Vani and I do this series, not just this one, we do 4 of them across the city. They're completely non-commercial in nature. And people ask me, so you don't make money out of this? You don't? Why do you do this? And I say, and as Keshav will talk about it, about his journey, we all do things which we love doing. And the joy of doing it is more important than what we get out of it. If I'm feeling happy at the end of the 90 minutes that I'm going to be in conversation with Keshav, to me that's the biggest reward. And if you leave happy from here, that's a bigger reward for me and Vani. So that's why we do it. And so the Artist Soul is one of the 4 programs that we curate. And we thoroughly enjoy this process because how else would I meet somebody that I've admired all my life? And I'm sure all of you are here because you're all fans of Keshav in some way or the other. So he's the rock star. I call him my rock star, cartoonist from the Hindu. In Urdu there is a phrase which I'll come to the phrase in a little bit. So when I was curating this program and we were deciding on inviting Keshav, it was just basically me, a fan of his work as a cartoonist that was looking at him. And when we went home to invite him, to talk to him, I heard of his art. I'd seen some of the Krishna for Today series, but the studio and the work that Amuda, his wife, showed us around that day completely blew me. It completely blew me and Vani. You can see that here's a man who's immersed in his art form, and it was very evident. Now, one of the things I did when I promoted the program on Facebook, and that's where I come to the Urdu phrase, I said Keshav is the popular cartoonist from the Hindu, and Keshav is also an artist. Okay, and a lady quickly commented, "Excuse me, he's an artist first. A first-class artist, and everything else later." So the Urdu phrase is "Gustaki maaf." I'm sorry for the impudence, and kindly forgive me. And I came up and I changed that line and said he is an artist first and a cartoonist later. So today we're going to talk about both sides. But what I also understood interacting with Keshav in the last couple of months that we've been talking to him is that he's a seeker, he's a student, he's a thinker, he's a philosopher, he's a teacher, and then an artist, and then a cartoonist. And I think if you go through all the words that I've used, and if you find a disconnect with any of what I've said by the end of today's program, then maybe I missed something, But this is really the person that I saw, and this is the person that I've been interacting with. And this is the person that I spent the last 30 minutes with trying to, go over some of the visuals we're going to show you today. So, when I think of Keshav, and I'm sure this will warm the cockles of the heart of those people sitting in the front row, my dear friends, the Manichandra family, I'm reminded of Rumi and his line, his poem, where he says, "I want to sing like the birds. I want to sing like the birds who are not worrying about who listens or what they think. I want to sing like the birds without worrying who is listening or what they think." To Keshav, his art is really that. He told me that art is his first language, his mother tongue. And he does art for art's sake. He doesn't do it for anything else. And therefore, that is the man that we're going to be talking to today. A man who believes in his work and is immersed in his work. To the extent that there's so much modesty in him, he kept saying, "No, do I really want to talk about it? Do you think I can really talk about my life?" And when we were doing this invite for getting this event together, I said 50 years of work based on what we had talked about. And he corrected me and he said 40 years of work. So he's 56. And if we are talking about 40 years of work, then he probably started art at the age of 16. But that's not true. I think he started art much earlier. As a toddler, perhaps, he doesn't have evidence to show for that phase of his life when he was an infant. So he discounts that and he says, "Make it 40 years, Avis. 50 looks like too dramatic. I don't want to be there. 4 decades is good enough. But 4 decades is a lifetime already, right?" So ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you Keshav, our very dear Keshav. So Keshav, thank you for joining us. And so we'll get started. So the way we'll work is, for those of you who are new to this series, is we'll go in a conversation between me and Keshav for about 50 minutes. and closer to 8 o'clock, give it this way or that way. We will open up the floor for questions with the audience, where you can ask him questions, and we will also close on time. We always start and finish on time. We will close on time at 8:29. So on that note, Keshav, shall we start?
Please.
So the way we have planned it is, we thought with a visual artist, it's always important to show some of the work. So we kind of tried to sync some of the conversation elements with visuals that will come. And young Srinivas is right there behind operating the slideshow. So you will get to see some of the images over there. And Keshav, through a magnificent form of technology that we have, without having to turn his neck too much, is going to capture all of that on the screen, on the mirror over there. Right? So that's what wandering artists can do to you. It can do miracles. Okay. So so Keshav, let's start where it all started. Can you talk a little bit about your early influences as a child? Do you remember how you started drawing? What kind of triggered your interest? And that phase, maybe till you were about like 10 years old, the childhood phase, how did you learn drawing? Did anyone teach you? Can you talk a little bit about that phase?
Thanks, Avis, for the introduction. I try to deserve that. And about my... you're able to hear?
You're able to hear in the back?
Yeah.
Yes, I can manage to hear.
Okay, you can manage to hear. Okay, now? Now it's okay?
Yeah.
It's about the early influences. I do not know when I started drawing. My mother used to say I used to scribble on the floor. I all forgot about that. I really don't remember all that. I was always drawing as far as I know. We didn't have means to buy paper or pencil or books and these kind of things. So a chalk piece was the only thing available. I used to draw on the floor. That was how, as usual as children do, on the walls, on the floor, whatever is available. That's how I started. Slowly, school, I used to continue, go to painting competitions. This was the, every other, people knew, like drawing master, they knew I used to draw, other classmates knew I used to draw, they used to give the names. So it happened, so competitions like every ordinary kid, I used to go. And the live sketching was begun right at that moment when I used to jump up the window, see what's going on the road, and then draw on the floor. You go to a vacation, the steam engine was there, as influenced by the steam engine. My steam engine used to go across the floor. So nobody would dare stamp on it. They used to jump and they used to go. So they respected what I was doing. So that encouragement from the family was always there. And then again, say at about 10-12 years, I don't remember the exact time, but that was the time when we go on a vacation. My mother's place was in Bangalore. So it once happened that I went for a vacation in Mysore. That was when I got to see the real original works of any art for that matter in the Jayachamrajendra Art Gallery and the Mysore Palace. And there was a room, Ravi Verma's room, which had about, say, about 20-30 works, huge works, 5 by 7, 10 feet, and all, big works. That was the time when art actually made an impact on my thought process.
So would you say that was like a turning point for you?
Yeah, that was really when I was, if somebody can do this, then possible, this should be the, it was motivating.
You were drawn, you were captivated by it.
It was inspiring. So particularly that painting on where Krishna goes on as an ambassador to the Kaurava palace. That was this scene. It had Krishna's silk, red silk was flowing down and he could have almost lift it. It is so real and it made such an impact. That was the real time when you really wanted to do something more. So those were the influences, early influences.
Those were your early influences. Now, at that time, I heard you say that your family was was not exactly able to afford the art material and things like that, and you were drawing stuff on the floor with whatever was available. How did you cope with the fact that as a child, many children want something, right? So they ask their parents. But how did you cope with that phase when you could not get what you wanted?
We were not the asking type, you know. Make do with what's available. So pencil was always there. You can always find a pencil or a slate, and you can always draw. There were calendars those days. There were calendars. There's numbered calendars, and these Air India calendars, which my dad used to get. They were very good, and those also helped me learn because there were woodcuts. Indian Airlines had a lovely calendar so you can learn at the same time you can draw on the back of it.
Okay.
And wedding invitations, visiting cards. These were sort of I always kept them, so that if you wanted to draw, you should not go and search for something. So these were collected. So any material which was drawable. That is, you take it and then
became a canvas.
It became a canvas. That was the canvas.
Okay.
I never imagined that. I didn't know that there was a thing called a canvas and all.
Okay.
I learned all this later because. So that
Who
was.
taught you art really? Who taught you art? You from what I'm hearing you say, you kind of used every opportunity to express yourself.
Yes.
But did any teacher specifically guide you in the early years, saying this is the way to draw, this is
Yes.
the way for an image to come about?
I would give this credit to my school teacher at Central School, that is Kendra Vidyalaya, Golconda in Hyderabad. That's where I studied. And I had a drawing master called VRND. He got me at the first class itself. I showed my work, and he told I could do this. But the beauty of my art teacher was this. It was 4 years I was under him. There was not a single day he touched the board. No, he did not do like this, draw like this, never. He was an art master who inspired you. He used to give a subject, and he used to inspire and talk about the subject. He asked me to observe things. So that was how the observation was the key element in any drawing student. So he told me that you observe things. When you go to, he gave me as a subject, like ration shop for example. See, the ration shop, what does it have? I mean, it's not a colorful theme anyway. But then he asked me, go and observe what are the things available, how to put them and how to bring in color. So these are the things I learned from him, a challenge. So he was the first master, and I learned a lot from him. And from him I also knew that, drawing is not one size fits all. That it's not like that. Every individual has a taste. Some people may be interested in art, some people may be interested in music or sports. So each one may not have an interest for art. So he let the others go. That is, he knew who would stay in his class. If a person was interested in music, he used to send them to music. So the teaching, as a person, I learned a lot from him.
Beautiful, wonderful.
So that is, you can't force your ideas on people. So if you're interested in music, you go to music class.
In fact, I'm picking up a very valuable point here, that a teacher is really good when a teacher allows a student to blossom and does not necessarily direct but invokes, and that's the quality that perhaps Mr. Reddy had.
Mr. Reddy. I still am in touch with him. In fact, last year I went and got his blessings. He still appreciates my work, and now that technology era, he even comments on my work on Facebook.
That is a great relationship bond that you have. Yeah. So I think one of the learnings that we have at this stage of the conversation is, we do see a lot of parents getting very anxious about their children and their tastes and their preferences, and everything is immediately looked upon as is it a career opportunity? Can my child become the number one in that field? And can we monetize this? Is there a career? Career is always equal to monetization. And I think Mr. Reddy's views back then, which have led to the creation of a great thinker in the art space, Keshav, were really about allowing that flowering to happen. And I think if we can look at the lives of our children and allow them to blossom, there's a great takeaway here from this part of the conversation. Let's move on, Keshav. Let's talk about what other influences, as you were in your teens, what other influences kind of came about? Did you read a lot on other forms of art? Did you start dabbling in other inspirations that drove you at that point in time?
Yeah, that point of time, that schooling part was over, and my father was transferred to Chennai, and Madras, we came here. And this was the time when I really took the next step. That is, you'll have to go the next stage, actually paint. So you go, if you have to paint, you'll have to learn. So I didn't know anything about this. So the only thing available to us was either British Council or the American Consulate, where they had a very good library where we could learn. So that is where I started knowing about European art, Michelangelo, the Renaissance painters, Michelangelo, Leonardo, Raphael, these kind of people. And then we slowly try to incorporate their works, because most of them are biblical subjects. I used to adapt them to Indian epics and all that. So that was when you copied from them. You copied from the European masters. That's John Constable. That was when I was 14 years. It was a small work. So the landscape, and there was one artist called John Stark who did only horses. So then that I don't have here. So horses, and then you had Michelangelo's work, and then you had Raphael's work. So these kind of things I did not know oil painting. So these are done in oils. So you go to the art store, you ask them, that is, I don't know exactly, I ask them oil painting. You take oils, and there is a big box, I can't afford it. Just give me 2 tubes. So I started red and black and one brush, that's all I could do. Then you take that, and then you slowly graduate to say 5 colors. So like that it progressed. So, and 2 brushes. So I could always do that. I can't go for 3 different brushes. So I used to buy the 3 brush and use them for all the small work and the bigger thing. So that was how. And first I started with oil paper because I didn't know how to. This canvas thing was too expensive.
So everything seems to have been self-taught in a way, right? You took the inspiration and you taught yourself. And I think one of the qualities I'm picking up, can some of the younger people move forward to the Dari here and allow some seats there for the people who are trying to get it? Please, I think we are making a couple of seats happen right now, that's fine. So let's continue. I think the important point we are picking up here is resourcefulness. Many of us complain about the lack of resources. And here's a story of resourcefulness, making do with what is available, and trying to learn in a manner in which it is done in a self-taught kind of manner. You know, so இதுக்கு வந்து தமிழ்ல எனக்கு ஒரே ஒரு வார்த்தை தான் வருது கேஷவ், உங்களுக்கு நீங்க சொல்றதை கேட்கும்போது அந்த தாகம் இருக்கணும். You should have the thirst. प्यास होनी चाहिए. அப்பதான் you will be able to go after what you love doing. Now, did you take any of your European influences and show it and use it in your Indian art?
Yeah, this is Yashoda, Balarama and Krishna. But this was from Raphael's work, Madonna and St. Joseph and John.
Okay.
St. John. So this is adapted from that. Madonna on the rocks. This is Raphael's work.
Okay.
This is oil painting on oil paper.
Okay.
It is a 22 by small work. And this is how I use everything, the form and the composition and all is Raphael's. But I just change the costumes, nothing else, to fit into our scheme of thing. So this is how we done. The earlier one was Rembrandt. Rembrandt's work was also copied like that.
Okay.
That was done on cardboard, this polythene cardboard which comes. I didn't have a canvas and all that. None of this were on the canvases.
And you have one on Rama. Do
Rama,
you have it
yeah.
here? Do you have it here? Srinivas, can you move?
This one.
Right. So can you talk a little bit about this?
This was also this culmination of the oil painting. This was done with just the student set, about 12 colors and something like that. And the composition was actually done keeping only Lakshmana there. Lakshmana, you see, is David of Michelangelo's work. So that was the basis, his muscular structure, the study of anatomy and all was done from Michelangelo's marble, David, which is there in Italy.
Okay.
So that is how I learned the European art. Now the combination of European art and Indian art, you see there is a Ravi Verma influence here also. The softness, you soften down things and make them calm. So there has to be a stability in the picture. I mean, you can't be, so that is European movements are very harsh. I mean, they don't have, except Bellini perhaps, there is a poetic element to it. Or Pieta of Michelangelo, there is soft. But this David is very, his eyes are very harsh. So you'll have to soften it down. Then this was composed. So it's a fantasy.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for telling us.
This
about
is
that.
my first canvas.
This is your first canvas. Okay. Which year was this?
That was in 90.
90. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing your first canvas with you. How did your entry into cartooning happen? Where did that journey really start?
Yeah, that is in the early years, 82 I think. When I had to do this due to some circumstances, I sort of sent my illustrations, drawings to various kind of journals, Kumadam, Ananda, Vigadan, Nidam, basically those kind of things, because I had no. This Illustrated Weekly was a big learning experience, but that's Bombay. So I had to look for local lingo. Because I did not study Tamil, I did not do much of this. I learned by myself. Reading and writing I know, but my study was in Hindi and Telugu. So I didn't do much of writing in Tamil. So when Vigadan picked me up, Sridhar was the Bharanidharan as a writer. He was the person who found me.
That is Sridhar of Ananda Vigadan.
Sridhar of Ananda Vigadan. He only found me and he asked me to come. And he said, your lines are good. He saw my works. He said, your lines are good. You do one thing. Then only he said, sir, I do not know much about this direct sketch. He wanted me to do direct sketching. So I do not know anything about this, sir. First let me go and practice and then I come.
Direct sketching means seeing your subject live.
Subject live and sketching. It's something like, you keep your, that is without their knowledge.
Okay. So they're not posing.
They're not posing for me. So the thing is, you will have to be really fast when you take down sketches. I said, I am not used to that, sir. I have not done it before. And I don't know much. I will learn and come. He told me, he said, no, this world is your university. Go and learn. You go and learn. You observe people. You will know more. You start now. That was November. He gave me a ticket to the music academy and said, go and sketch. That was the person who actually triggered my interest in cartoons actually. I never intended to be a cartoonist.
Okay.
Because he saw the lines and said, these lines will suit him for this profession. He was the person who had the vision to see that in me. So he sent, and that was my beginning of the sketches in music academy, which was again the route for my cartooning career.
So you would go to the academy and watch a concert,
Yes.
and you would draw a cartoon of the artist.
Yes,
That's
artist.
really what you were doing.
Not just the artist, everything there is a subject. For example, you go to music academy, the audience who come, the VIPs who come, the canteen, everything is a subject. So the concerts were the only one which got published. But this is your practice session.
Okay.
He said, this is your Saraswati poem, you go and learn from there. So when you go there, really, that was a Saraswati Gaur, because when you go there, the secretary used to say Mali sat there and sketched. And then the people like Dr. Ramanathan, Mysore Dorsami, they used to come. So this was a great moment, and music as a art by itself, it sort of inspired me to do the sketches. The music was good, the sketches was good.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I think two important points we're picking up here. One is the world is a university, and that is your Saraswati going. I think whatever form you embrace, whatever you believe in, is your Saraswati going. And the world is the university. So there is no dearth of opportunities to learn for the true seeker. And if the music is good, the art is always great, right? So wonderful. I love that line. So you did Balamurali Krishna, you did Kadri, and you did a lot of cartooning. Was really perfected at the academy.
That is about 15 years.
Wow.
More than 15 years. 96 and from 82 to 96.
Okay, you were there. So how did it really happen at this time, given the background that you were coming from? How did your academic career kind of progress? Wasn't there pressure from you, from your family, that you should become something else, like a degree holder in some subject, or take up a job? So what was your academic career like at this time?
No, academic career was not that important. My main thing was to learn this. We have to do something for a living. So that was all. That was when I started this Vigadan thing, and so I was not much into the academic side. So I went into correspondence courses. So my BCom and my post graduation was all both in correspondence course. I never went to the college. Only PUC, there was only 1 year I did college.
Which was which college?
That was Guru Nanak College.
Guru Nanak College. And then the rest of it you did in correspondence course. But you did take up a job as in IDBI.
Yeah.
So I run another program called Bliss Catcher. So he's actually a bliss catcher as well, because he had the courage to quit his job at IDBI to go on to a job at the Hindu. But we'll go to the Hindu a little later. But talk about how you picked up this job at IDBI and why. When there was so much art in you, did job security matter then?
No, it's nothing like that. See, nobody would pay for this kind of work. See, for example, you do cartoons, you draw some caricatures, you draw jokes. There is not much of a payment. For example, you used to get 5 rupees or 10 rupees for a work. So even if you draw the whole work completely in all the issues, maybe you can reach about 150 to 200 rupees, which is not enough. So you have to find something else for a living. So this was the normal way, that there was a bank recruitment board exam, you pass that, go for interview. It was the normal way, you get selected, and that's how I went into IDBI.
But you stayed there only for less than 3 years.
Yeah, I was contributing to Vigadan then also.
On the side, you were doing cartoons for Vigadan.
Yes.
Right.
That is the music thing and all was not possible when I was in IDBI, because when I was doing the music season, I used to go at 7 o'clock to the music academy, right from the expert committee meetings. I used to come, and after the last concert is over at 10:30, I used to go home. So that I used to stay throughout.
What happened to all those sketches? You still have them preserved somewhere?
I have them.
That's archival value, my God. Okay, I'll come to a question here on IDBI itself. You stayed with them for about 2.5, 3 years. What made you quit them, and what made you take that plunge into the Hindu? How did that happen?
Actually, there was one, while I was in IDBI, there was this Hindustan Time cartoon contest which held, that was the time they began. So I got interested, I sent 3 of my works there. One was a cartoon caricature in 3 different categories. And in fact 3 of them were given some prizes. Not the first prize, some prize, second or third, I don't remember. In each category it was different. The thing is, they called me to Delhi, the prize winners were called to Delhi, and the Trade Fair Authority of India, they held the whole thing. The thing is, this was the, for cartooning, this was the trip which made a change in my outlook towards cartooning. See, cartooning at that point was you give it, contribute from outside, that is never take it as a full-time job. So this was the idea. But after I went there, you get to meet people like Abu Abraham, Sudhir Dar, Ranga, Miki Patel, Kutti, all these people were there. So there was a team of about 6-7 people there. All of them very, very great in their own fields. So these people were the judges. The thing is, you could meet them, talk to them, show your work, and see other cartoons. So it was the first real exposure to the cartooning world. So this was the one which inspired me to take this up as a full-time job. It was just a seed. It didn't. So I was in IDB. I just sent a letter saying that I have been with Vikatan for so many years, about 5-6 years, and then I was contributing to them, and my painting works also. I just sent it is a random
shot in the dark.
Shot in the dark. I never expected to even be called.
At the Hindu, you are talking about the Hindu.
I am talking about it. It was a small letter with pin copies of these things, and it was GK and Ram who were at the helm then. So
GK is G Kasturi.
G Kasturi. He was the editor. They asked me, "You bring your works," I said, and that was the time I took my works, went there. They gave me a break, and that was the time when Zail Singh, Rajiv, that problem was there. Rajiv was at his problem with Bofors. This kind of, it was a very volatile situation. And there are lots of cartoons coming up. Of course, I took the permission from the bank and all that to do this. At one point, you had to take a decision. See, you're getting a good break in a Hindu. That is, being there and doing cartoons, it didn't fit in. Because the editors used to be there for 6-7:30. My office used to be complete only about 5:36 and all. After that, doing a cartoon and going there, submitting and getting it approved and all, it's a hard thing. So you have to take a decision. So that was the time. There was a dilemma, and you make a choice. You convince people. My Sridhar again came to my help. My father was a bit hesitant, living a secure job and all. No, he will do well. He has got good lines. He will learn.
Okay.
And he again put in a word to my father. My father said, "Okay." So that was fun because I wanted everybody's consent. I don't want to do anything rash.
But your heart was in art and cartooning.
At that moment, art was always there.
Yeah,
It never
art was always art never left you.
Yeah,
Or you never left art.
I never left.
Right.
That was always there.
So cartooning as a career option was a choice that was made possible by Sridhar's kind of talk with your dad. Let's say.
I took him there so that I took him to his home, and he convinced that it will be all right. Don't worry.
So that's how it happened. So just for everyone to get a timeline, I think we are referring to 87.
87.
87 is when you made that critical decision to move into the Hindu, leaving the IDBI job that you had kept for about 3
What was
years.
your age then?
Can we ask questions at the end, please? I am here asking the questions. Please bear with me. So coming back, so 87 is when he's 56 years old, so you can calculate. Okay. So 87 to 2016, 29 years you kept a full-time job at the Hindu, and last year you moved into an editorial consultant role, which gives you more flexibility to do your art. So time frees up a lot of your time for doing what you love doing. So almost 30 years with the Hindu. How have the Hindu years been? What did you learn from your role as a lead cartoonist there and working with somebody like GK, for example?
No, Hindu, again, it is a separate university again. It taught me about life, how to be subtle in approach, and how to view things with equanimity. It taught me a lot, not just cartooning. For example, there is a very, very volatile issue, very sensitive issue. how to approach it. You don't go by emotions. You'll have to have a very cool head, deal with it with a very, very balanced mind. So that took me a lot of practice, because GK, because at that time it was 89 and all, it was very volatile. The communism was falling, it was that time. By the time you're given a cartoon, the things would have been changing in there.
Okay.
It was that kind of time. Your cartoon would be outdated 3 times in a day. Right. That was the time when you really learn how to deal with deadlines and working fast. You have to think on your feet, because it's really moving fast. And then we didn't have access to TV and all. It was your telex. You always be there in the telex machine watching news come by. So those were the time you really lived this communism, fall of communism, the Tiananmen Square incident in China. So these things, and this Ayodhya issue, 92. So it was very, very delicate issues, treated very, very, I mean it is, it can be here or there, it is walking a thread. So the visuals are very, very important. It hurts people. You are pointing out issues, and there are people involved, and there are actual people there. We should never hurt sentiments, religious sentiments, and how to draw your own Lakshman Rekha. Nobody will tell you do this. See, the Hindu has been, it never told me do this. From what is approved and what is not approved, you will know what is the thinking.
What is the fine line?
We don't go to any editorial board meetings and all that. We are left on our own. We decide what to draw. So it has been a training ground in cartooning, but it was a trial and error basis, because you never, it is like cricket, you know, cricket and music were all the analogy for cartooning. When the umpire lifts his hand, you just walk. You don't ask why, and don't do the same mistake again. So that's how we learn. It's a gentleman's game. You don't feel bad, and you don't get angry over things. The sport will be there. So it's very delicate. It all taught me how to be subtle.
And yet, as a cartoonist, you have expressed yourself very, very unequivocally at times, right?
Yes. There was one thing they told me, it was a bottom line sort of motto, that is, you comment on issues, not on personalities. Because a personality, he may be doing good sometimes it may not be good. So it should not make you a biased person. And if you are going to be politically attached to some party, it becomes difficult for you to work. You are an observer. If you are going to align toward this party or this, you cannot be an observer. So these and all, and it helps me in life to see things in perspective. So that is what the Hindu taught me, and that is why I am still there.
Fantastic. I think there are key takeaways here for life for us. Very key takeaways. One is equanimity, the word he used. And I think we all rush to judgment very quickly. And we often think of the Hindu as a very staid newspaper at times, you know, as Mount Road Mahavishnu, who does not take any hard stand on things. But I think there is a deeper reason for that, and the reason is that you stick to the knitting and telling the story as it is. The other part is the point that he talked about, that you don't focus on personalities, you focus on issues. And I think half the world's problems, even in our own small worlds at home, we focus on personalities and not on the issues. And that is why we have so much of frictions and relationship problems. Instead, if we focus on the issue, we may still have a problem in the relationship, but at least we'll have the clarity to opt out of the relationship. You know, but because we end up focusing on the personality, we end up asking how dare he or she, and therefore we never resolve the issue. So just a very important thought that I could connect, a life lesson that I could take from what you just said. So Hindu happened, and parallelly I think when I came home and I saw your work, and I also saw the 2 shows that you held, and a lot of Indian art happened around the same time. In this time of 30 years, you've really covered a lot of Indian art. And his understanding of Indian art, and I'm letting him talk, but I'm giving him a trigger, is not about the art as an artist expressing him. To him, it's the study of scriptures, and it is the learning that he takes from those scriptures that he brings out in his art. So can you talk a little bit about that phase of understanding and expressing yourself through Indian art?
See, early when I was learning from Western art, European art for example, I was impressed by the kind of perfection, the quest for perfection. They used to do their anatomy well, direct sketching, cartoons. Actually, cartoons are what the artists do as a preliminary sketch for a bigger work. That is a cartoon. So Leonardo did cartoons, so it means he does this brown pencil sketches. Those are called cartoons. Now about this Michelangelo, you are overawed by the presence and the literature we have. Unfortunately, we do not have much literature on Indian art. All you can see Indian art is there in temples, or for example calendars or books which we cannot afford. 3,000, 4,000 rupees we can't afford, and you'll have to go to libraries, and in libraries also they'll be stocking these Western art things and all, and Indian art, whatever plates are available, they'll be torn off. You don't have access to these kind of things, so you'll have to go and watch directly. So it was at that time that I got in touch with S. Rajam. So S. Rajam was the trigger to Indian art.
S. Rajam, the musician.
S. Rajam, he was S. Balachandra's elder brother.
Right.
S. Rajam, see, so there was a concert of Shamangudi Mama in Krishna Gana Sabha. It was there, and P.P. Srinivas and S. Rajam had come, and they sat down right beside me. See, this S. Rajam was the person who was my great idol when I was a kid. When I was say 10 or 12, you know, I used to see his paintings in Ramayana, with the book which my father used to read. Those were the sketches. I was so impressed by the style and lines, poetic lines. So then he sat beside me. Then he was the trigger. So then he said, go and watch. Then he told me, read authors like Anand Kumar Swami, Stella Kramrisch, all German, one is Sri Lankan. So these kind of authors have written a lot about Indian art. Then I pursued that. He told me, go to the arts college, Madras Art School, that's what it's called. Go there, go to the library, they have got fantastic books, you go there and read. So that was the beginning of your learning in Indian art. So then you know what these temples are talking about. Because we know temple as, you know, you go there, see the deity, pray to it and come back. But actually that was a visual language of the persons. They communicated so much about our society and all in the temple. Nobody watches the pillars, what it means and all. So this was our Indian art. They had a lot of symbols. So ultimately when you go still further down, you know that even the deity and all that is said about our epics, they are all symbols. So you slowly learn what are they talking. So you try to decipher what it. So this and all, then this leads you further down. Then you learn that there is a thing called Vishnu Dharmottara, and in that Vishnu Dharmottara there is a part of it called the Chitra Sutra, which is a treatise on painting. So this and all I came later. It came later. So to know or understand Chitra Sutra, it is in Sanskrit. So you will have to know Sanskrit. So you can go back to the basics. You learn Sanskrit. Then you translate epics. Then you that is how you go. When you go for interpretations, it's so sanitized. So you go to the root. Then you will know the actual symbols.
But it's so laborious that you have to immerse yourself in the scripture for you to draw out what it is trying to say. A shorter route would be to just express what you see, and I think that's the difference between a maestro and somebody who's just doing a kind of a job on something. So his immersion is very qualitative. Very
that
qualitative.
quest leads you there. You'll have to go. There is no other way. You'll have to find out.
Isn't it beautiful? There is no other way. That quest leads you there. That quest is what makes a child's icon, which is, as a child he idolized on Rajam's works, and then Rajam comes and sits next to him in the music academy. Can you go back to that point? What did Rajam tell you, or did you approach him and say, "Sir, I'm a big fan"?
I'm a big fan. I showed him my notebook. I'm doing this. I'm a great fan of that Ramayana. I told him I saw your works in Ramayana. And Apadiya, Vesh, and he said. Then he drew me a Rama on the spot, and he signed. And later, I used to go to his home. He asked me to come home. I used to go there. I bought his originals, brushes. I took his brushes. I saw his original works, and then he also came home. He saw my works. He's a great inspirer. I mean, he used to admire. That is, there is no connection between his art and my art, but he used to admire. He's an artist. He's a qualified artist. He studied in the Madras Art School under Devi Prasad Roy Chaudhary, 44 batch.
Okay.
So then he said how much washes he would go for each color. It is a color tone, the values he taught me. He took me to his Balachandra's house. He saw he showed me his work, the Dashavatara on the ceiling, 10 big panels of 6 feet by 4 feet each. It's
so your idol became your guru.
Yeah, he became my guru.
Fantastic.
I learned a lot from him.
Fantastic.
Just conversations like this. I used to go. He used to keep working. Then he used to show me this. You go and see that. Then he opened up.
That's fantastic. What a great guru, what a great shishya. Let's move on, and let me ask you, in many of your works, I see that your work is inspired by music. You talked about it, you said when the music is good, the art is good. But you have also called and titled some of your works after great musical compositions and songs that have inspired you. How did this happen, and what's the relevance in your work?
No, see when one thing is silence is equally good. I don't say silence. In fact, it's the best. And even now, in the mornings, I don't play any music. It is silence. Early morning silence is best. But the music helps when you are doing a particular composition. For example, Ennadavam Chaidanai or Meera Bhajans, this and all. Meretho Giridhar Gopal, those songs, particular paintings which I do based on the songs. So I keep them on loop and it will be playing on the background. So that helps me. So the word, lyrics, and how the MS or somebody expresses. For example, Rama's work, you have Dr. Balamurli's Ramadasa Kirtanas, which I think it's the ultimate in Bhakti music because it flows, the bhava flows. For art, bhava is important. The techniques are secondary.
So does that express in your work? I mean,
that's what we aim.
Okay.
So sometimes it helps, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So it's a constant process of updating, improving yourself, learning, and then comparing it with your old work. Whether have you improved over a period of say 4 or 5 years? So you'll have to go back and check again.
So it's a couple of important points. I want you to talk about at least the Mandolin Srinivas piece. But before that, before I forget my train of thought, he talked about silence. Again, Rumi says, silence is the language of God. Everything else is poor translation. What a beautiful line, And I think any person who can be silent still for minimum an hour, but if you can't do an hour, try 20 minutes in today's world. Is making great progress. So I think I can relate to that point about silence, and when you're silent, you express yourself. That's what really happens with silence. The other point I'm picking up is bhava. The bhava and the art have a happy marriage. There is a confluence, right? Now, you were talking, when we met at home, you were talking about the Mandolin Srinivas
yes.
concert and how the lines really came about. Do you want to talk about it?
In 2012, I went on a That is, I revisited Academy after a long time. But this time, instead of drawing the same music concert, this musicians and these kind of thing, I concentrated on the kritis. So I began a series on kriti drawings. So it is Subramanya Namaste or these kind of Mahaganapati, this Rama Ni Samanam, these kind of songs. I used to draw the kritis sitting right there, but not the people. So you draw this on the kritis so that the bhava gets translated into the drawing. That is the idea. Now, when it was U. Srinivas playing, it was a sort of, you learn something new. In U. Srinivas concert, there was a Ragam Tanam Pallavi. That is Elumalayani. That is Ragam Tanam Pallavi. He explained and he started that. You switch back to that. Yeah, this one. So this is a drawing, Elumalayani. Now each line in this is according to the beat, the rhythm. It plays a very vital part in your composition. If you come home and draw, because they're moving fast, you can draw this very slow. It is done fast to the beat.
Okay.
So this taught me rhythm in the drawing. So you just can't be slow, you'll have to be really fast and precise. So it teaches me more control. So that's how this U. Srinivas has been a big, very, very big lesson for me in music. So it does play a part, a very important part. Say, and the Chitra Sutra says, an artist is complete only when he knows about the other arts. We cannot be, it cannot be seen in isolation. So an artist should be aware of painting, sculpture, dance, because everything is body language. Dance is body language, sculpture is body language. So we have to know body language and how we communicate. So we have to know architecture, for example, how the pillars and the other is a part of architecture, but still it communicates. So we'll have to see things in perspective. Then only he becomes complete. He cannot be separate and say, I don't know about this. That is, it is like, you can't be a specialist.
So you draw your influences and inspirations from all
Every,
the arts,
yes,
and
all
not
the arts.
just the one
Yes.
art that you pursue.
Yeah, even dance. I watch dance performances. I draw rough postures which impresses. I go sometimes rough line drawings. So it helps me. Okay, so the moment is, it should be poetic. So that is in the moment.
Beautiful. I'm just looking at the time. I have a few more questions for Keshav. So with your permission, I may cut down audience question interaction because there's still some way to go in the conversation. I don't want to interrupt Keshav's flow, so I seek your understanding. Let me proceed. Keshav, I have a very important question for you, which is always both kind of, you're an enigma to me. Let me say it that way. Because look at this artist. And when he's an artist, he's deifying, he's glorifying, and he's a devotee. Don't you see a contrast? How do two people live in one Keshav? So the Keshav that expresses in the Hindu is very different from the Keshav that expresses on his canvases. So is there a dichotomy? Do you see a dichotomy?
There is no dichotomy. It is only application which is different. So drawing is the language. So you have to communicate in the language which you all understand. It is the same for both. But here the application is to point out. There the application is to glorify and say highly about a person. We cannot do that here. So it sorts of balances out. Both are communication. I don't say this is great, this is, it's not like that. So the thing is it's a visual communication. So the thing is you point your ideas across, you put your ideas across.
So you don't see a conflict?
The conflict is, I need something for my living. I cannot live with art. So And even Asrajam used to say, see, I am a qualified artist, but my food I earn from music, he says. So
but it's a fantastic balance, right? If you see his work as a artist and as a cartoonist, they two different worlds, and he inhabits both of them without any, or rather seamlessly. So it's a great balance. I wish we can all get there, you know. And I think that brings me to my next question, which is, if you look at his adaptability, the way he's taken to the social media to share what he does every day through the Krishna for Today series, he's insanely popular with that series, and it's just kind of. I write a blog every day. I express myself through my writings, sharing life lessons. So I know what it means to actually sit down and get down to expressing yourself on a daily basis with rigor. But still, I am not an artist, so I can't think like the way you do, Keshav. So, but then for the longest time, you were pursuing, or you were immersed in Rama, and then you made a switch to Krishna. How did that happen?
Ramayana was always a part of our lives. My father used to read. There were storytelling sessions, narrations, bhajans about Rama and Krishna. I can understand better. That was how it started. So I used to do my drawing side by side. That was Ramayana was always part. I was interested in. There were so many. It was dramatic. Krishna never appealed to me, so I didn't go there.
But in the last 15 years, it's all been Krishna.
It didn't make sense to me. But the thing is, when you go into the epics and you start learning, why are they enamored? Why do they talk so much about him? Then you go into the details. Then you know the symbolism. Then you know Krishna is Ananda. Krishna is a symbol. It is something like, you have this liberty statue with and you say, she holds a torch and you say it's liberty and you believe it. It's a symbol. But when you say Anandeti Brahmam, you say Krishna is Ananda. Ananda is not there in Krishna. He is Ananda. That's what they say. So he becomes a symbol. So now then look at the life of Krishna. Then you slowly understand that everything is a symbol. Everything is an abstract communicated through symbols. You take the epic like Bhagavatam and all that. If you know what they mean, I mean, it's very difficult to find out who is who. Everything. For example, the idea of Vinayaka, the idea of Rama, the idea of why is he green, for example. They say Rama is green. You should never take things literally. The point is, now we argue that he was there or not there. There are evidence, this geography. I am not going into all that. The point is, he makes an idea, and that stands for so many thousands of years. Why? That is the question we have to ask, and why it is still applicable. And why does, for example, Krishna chooses Arjuna for his treatise, the Gita and all that? Why? Because he is the mind of all Indriyas, Panchendriyas. The mind is the top. That is why he picks Arjuna. Then the conflict in Arjuna. Then who is Karna? Then these, why should he be killed? And why is Bhishma killed? He is a good man, he is a bhakta, why is he killed? So these are obvious points. It takes you ahead and deeper and makes you understand. And the beauty of this is, there is something working in the universe, When you are in a quest and you need answers, they come to you. For example, I did not know all this. Then suddenly you come across in a platform somewhere, you come across a book of Vivekananda, 20 rupees, you get that. And that is the exact book where you get the answers. So such things happen. You get the right books in hand. They come to you. So you understand there is a design, and it happens. I don't know how, but it happens.
And that's what drew you to Krishna.
Krishna is.
So Krishna has now become your muse and your teacher, both.
He is both. He is Jagat Guru. So he is everything. The point is, if you say Shanti, peace, and then happiness, ecstasy, it is all form of the same thing called Ananda. It is a different form of something like ice, water, and vapor. These three things. It is a different thing, and there is nothing like you differentiate between. There is only one God. Everybody knows there is only one. But then you make a distinction. Gods, they say 33,000 gods, crores, or whatever number. That is not the idea. Why are they raised to such level? Environment is God. You don't see that. How to treat the environment. That is the basic. How to treat your waters. These are taught in the epics. So unfortunately, the epics are relegated to religion and they are cast away. It is like throwing the baby with the bathwater. You take what is good for you.
So your art there is mere expression.
That's what I am trying to do through my daily
Krishna for today. So that was my question. So how can you wake up every morning and say, I'm going to do Krishna today? Does it bother whether people are seeing it, not seeing it, appreciating it, not appreciating? What do you get out of doing Krishna for today every day religiously?
No. First,
religiously is the wrong word.
No, religiously is right.
With rigor, let me say.
No, religious.
Because he's one of those few people like, I appreciate anybody who can distinguish between religion and spirituality, and he's one of them. So I truly respect him for that, No,
religious because keep doing the same thing over and again means religious.
Right.
So that's okay in that sense. The thing is, keeping it daily, drawing daily, it's practice for me. In music they call it sadhana. That is, you do it every morning. So this is also done every morning. So it is practice. You start with that. And for information, I never say I'm going to do this. I never start with that. I just start with a line, and that line leads to so many options. The thinking begins after the line is put on paper. So it happens. I'm also watching what is coming up.
This is a very important point. This is a very beautiful point. This is a very beautiful point, which is what Osho says in the art of creation. In the art of creation, you disappear and creation takes over.
Yeah,
that's what he's referring to.
Exactly.
That's practicing, and that's why he does Krishna for today. You can't get a more profound answer than that. And I think when we all do whatever we are good at, and all of us are artists in our own way, it's just that he expresses it through this form. We all have our art in us, and we give up so easily because we've not got what we wanted out of it, which is recognition, probably applause. We look for those things, and that's why I truly love the fervor with which you do it.
And another thing is, we should always be a student. That's what I'm always a student. If you want to learn from a kid, do it. And they are the best ones who can teach you. You go to a painting competition and see the variety they do and different kinds of compositions, absolutely new, unbound creativity. Because they are not conditioned, their mind is not conditioned, it's free. So the best way is to go and watch the children draw, then you will learn a lot. So you are always a learner.
How do you, it's a fantastic point, being a student and yet at 56, you're living a life in the real world. There are pulls and pressures working for an organization, however equanimous it might be, like the Hindu, okay? There are pulls and pressures of everyday life. You are raising a family, you have bills to pay, there are health related issues that may concern you, there are relationship issues that may concern you. How do you kind of balance, do they come and interfere with your art? Because you're so incorruptible in the art space, right? You don't like any distraction. You have to express yourself with complete abandon. But don't these real world pulls and pressures distract you, disturb you, interfere with your art?
When you're in your art world, you don't think about all this. We come to it later, after the work is finished. We come back to this. When you're in the art world, in fact, art is such a charm that when you are drawing, nothing else is in your mind. It is something like Arjuna says, I see only the eye. It is like that. The focus is totally complete. If you're going to think all this and draw, you're not drawing. So when you're drawing, it is total oneness with what you're doing is required. So if you have that, nothing else, no, these things will always, who doesn't have, you tell me? Everybody has these problems, everybody has this. It will take care of itself. The point is, you take both of them equally. That it's difficult, it's not easy, it's not very easy. But as they say, both are Bhagavad Prasadam, this and that. To come to that level, it takes years. I mean, I have not come to that level. That is the aim.
But you're higher up there than most of us out here. You're higher up there. But even to be able to say that this and that will coexist, and that when you're doing art, your art, whatever form of art that you express yourself with, when you're doing that, you don't necessarily allow these distractions to come in. And I think that's a very, very big takeaway. Or the counter is also true, that when you get into an immersive experience, then no distractions shall enter, because you shut yourself out and immerse yourself in what you're doing. So any particular big influence in getting this clarity in your life? That's my last question to you. Any particular big influence?
Another thing about the early question is, that's why you start early in the morning. It's fresh. Don't do anything else before getting into the work. So that is important. And about the influences, there is one person I can always rely on, is our Paramacharya, who has been the motivating force, inspired, who talked to me and gave me all this inspiration, and who is making me do these things. So it is his work. So I take it as his blessings.
And you feel that grace guides you?
Yes. So there are sometimes when things come to you which you didn't ask for. I think somebody is watching over you.
So humble, so beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing that point. Thank you so much.